Welcome to week 7 of the F.I.R.E. travel series. I created this series prior to us traveling to Europe for 3 months. If you're new to my channel, my name is Jake. My wife and I retired from our 9-to-5 job by investing into real estate and the stock market so that we could achieve financial independence. So if you're new to the channel, welcome. In week 7, we started the week off by visiting an old friend of mine who I met in Germany back in 2010 while doing a study abroad. We visited him and his family in his hometown of Ravensburg. Ravensburg is in the southern part of Germany, somewhat near the border of Switzerland. If you really enjoy puzzles, there's a good chance that that puzzle was made in Ravensburg. The Ravensburger puzzles are world famous. In fact, I got a Ravensburger Lord of the Rings puzzle for my wife for Christmas this last year. We then made our way to the Black Forest and visited the town of Freiburg. I've never been here before and wanted to visit for a long time. Freiburg is a university town and is known for having the warmest weather in Germany, which is great in the winter, but maybe not so great in the summer because air conditioning is not a thing in Germany. The city itself is a biker's paradise. The preferred means of transportation here is by bike. This is where we enter into the more relaxing part of our vacation. We will stay in an Airbnb for nearly 2 weeks surrounded by the trees in the Black Forest. This week was all about recharging in nature. The next week will be more of the same, but a little bit more exploring as well. But more on that in next week's video. Someone asked the question, what happens if SAHD cuts its dividend? The thought of a dividend cut is a dividend investor's worst nightmare. And to be honest, it pretty much is. Dividend cuts are never a good thing and should be avoided as much as possible. Unfortunately, there's only so much you can do to avoid a dividend cut, whether with an individual stock or a dividend ETF. Here's my take on it. If a single stock cuts its dividend, then I sell the stock. There really isn't any middle ground here. I sell, I cut my losses, and I move on. It sucks, but it's part of being a dividend investor and investing into the stock market. However, when an ETF cuts its dividend, this is something much different. Not all dividend ETFs are created equal, and not all dividend ETFs have the same rules in place by which they are screening companies. This is what is also known as the methodology of the index. So if SAHD were to cut its dividend 1 year, meaning the total dividend payout for 4 quarters year over year were to decline, I would not sell. In fact, if SAHD had 2 or 3 years of dividend cuts year over year, I would still not sell. The reason for this is that it has not so much to do with the ETF itself, but rather, the rules of the index and the methodology, but rather something more very serious is going on in the overall economy. And this is assuming that the rules of the index of SAHD have gone unchanged. I would not sell my shares even if SAHD or DJRO were to cut their dividend. So it comes down to understanding what you're investing in. If a single stock cuts its dividend, well, crap is hitting the fan for that company. Now, if SAHD, which holds a basket of about 100 companies, cuts its dividend, it means the overall economy is not doing so hot. And there's a very big difference, and I would not sell my shares of SAHD if it were to cut its dividend 1 year. This is a really great question. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see everybody in next week's video.